Hello and welcome to WGF iTalks. WGF iTalks is World Growth Forum's series on worldwide interviews of passionate people from varied professions and fields who have contributed in some form or other towards nation building in their respective countries, or of people who have been generally working towards creating a better world. So today I am in talk with Adam Greenwell from New Zealand. We will learn about what Adam has been doing, what are his thoughts and philosophies, and what lies ahead in his life through a session of questions and answers. Hello, Adam.
Hello, Hasina. Thank you very much for that.
Sure. Welcome to WGF iTalks.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm fine today, and how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. And
oh, that's great.
Yeah, great. I'll straight jump to the questions, and
Sure.
would ask you about what I know about you and what WGF research and editorial teams have put before me.
Mm-hmm.
To start with, please give a brief introduction of yourself for our viewers.
Certainly, as I'm fond of saying, I will give a thumbnail sketch of myself when I find King Kong's thumbnail, because it's been such a fascinating life. But in short, I have a global way of thinking because of the way I was brought up. I was born in Singapore. My parents were in the Royal Air Force.
Great.
My father was from England. My mother came from Ireland. My father, obviously from the Greenwell family in County Durham, which is one of the oldest English names on record.
Wow.
And a lot of English history began in Durham. So when I would go up there as a child, I would be aware of not just my own heritage, but the history of England at the same time.
Yeah.
And then my mother came from a historic city called Kilkenny in Ireland.
Yeah.
And she had a very creative, Irish whole of brain thinking. And so both parents instilled in me a love of reading, a love of international affairs. And then I came out to New Zealand when I was 7 in the 1970s. So I've lived here ever since, and there's been a lot of changes in New Zealand.
That's right, yeah. Great. I want to understand, what do you do through Adam Greenwell Agency Limited?
Thank you. Adam Greenwell Agency is just a way of professionalizing and making a business out of what I've been naturally doing, which I probably do for nothing. If I had a day job doing, sweeping the streets, I would still do what I'm doing. So obviously it's very important to develop that capacity for connecting people and international networking as a business that can generate income. And I'm working in 3 areas, which you're going to ask me more about. One is cybersecurity, the other is Generation Hip Hop, and the final one, the continuation of my mother's legacy in Kenya with UNESCO.
Awesome. I believe the most exciting work in that is, your most exciting work is in the capacity of New Zealand Director of Generation Hip Hop Global. So what is Generation Hip Hop Global, and what all you have been taking care of as New Zealand Director of Generation Hip Hop Global?
Well, Hasina, there's 2 things that I'm quite excited about, because Generation Hip Hop is basically hip hop. The chair is Nelson Mandela's grandson, the custodian of his legacy. Awesome. And through that small initial team, I think they've got the ear and access to all of the major hip hop artists in the world.
Wow.
And yet at the same time, Generation Hip Hop Global is bringing forth from 70 countries
Wow.
up and coming hip hop artists.
Wow.
So that's the exciting thing. Generation Hip Hop Global is a bit like Adam Greenwell Agency. It's about all these exciting things going on that we have to give structure to and organize some sort of organizational form. And then the great thing from New Zealand's point of view is, coming in with my own experience, hip hop can advance education, it can advance community spirit and community development, and it can advance enterprise and business as well. So that's what I'll be doing, speaking from experience.
Oh, very nice. Okay. Please tell us something about your wonderful mother, late Professor Elizabeth Greenwell, her legacy, and her overall global vision of watering the fields of humanity worldwide.
Thank you very much for that. My mother was appointed professor, executive professor, and director of global social development initiatives by Energyme University, which is affiliated to the United Nations, and it is also connected to major universities, states, or the state of New Jersey in America, government departments, and more recently it's been in talks with Microsoft and Google about its gaming platform. Now, the reason why Energyme recognized my mother, at first they couldn't believe that somebody like her actually existed. But, she had two initiatives. First was Global Cooperation Day, which was just a way of gathering all sorts of people from around the world. And then prior to that, she made No Chance to Paint the Canvas, which was the world's first film about cross-sector global cooperation. And what that simply meant was getting people who were like in the community of Palmerston North, New Zealand at that time, through to corporations, governments, small businesses, city councils, all around the world. And then one thing that was recognized almost immediately after she died was a 3-point program going forward. And that is to all people of goodwill together under the banner of global cooperation with energy to bundle together all those sustainable technologies like in energy, food, water, waste management, affordable housing, health, and so forth. So that's called integrated sustainable design. And then through the kind of work that I've been doing recently through her vision is to find investors and funders, backers, sponsors who can pay for all of that. Yeah, so that 3-point plan was recognized at a very high level by the United Nations after she died.
Great. Yeah. So you have been appointed as a special advisor and rapporteur to Princess Aisha Gaddafi by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Sultanate of Oman. Please share your experience of working with the Oman Ministry of Foreign Affairs towards the global vision of watering the fields of humanity worldwide.
Thank you. You've got sort of like two different experiences, Hasina, going in parallel. The first is the nightmare of being, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to the real Aisha Gaddafi, but every other person around the world has got a story of someone called Aisha Gaddafi emailing them saying that we've got these funds, and if you pay me money, I can give you money. You know, her name is used in the craziest of scams.
Right.
And plus there's the politics, you know, the name Gaddafi in international politics. So we had to be very careful and make sure that any affiliation with Aisha Gaddafi directly goes back to the Sultanate of Oman. And one of there's a couple of great things about Oman. The first is that they have a Christian-led interfaith group that is the only one of its kind formally partnered with an Islamic government. So that is very good, not just for Islamic Christian relations, but general peacemaking, reconciliation, collaboration, all of those good things.
Right.
And the second thing is, through my late mother, there's a group called Global Harmony Association, and I think we're all connected now with Generation Hip Hop, World Growth Forums, and Global Harmony Association because of their interest in Gandhi, which is very. But they want to set up in Oman a international humanitarian academy of non-violence under the patronage of the Sultan.
Wow.
And with our work in New Zealand, our work in Bermuda and Oman, we're developing a kind of three-way relationship, which Jacinda Ardern, New Zealand's Prime Minister, couldn't participate in, but supported in principle, which is good, because usually any mention of New Zealand's name overseas would probably need foreign affairs or whatever. So basically the government have given tacit acknowledgement to this idea that New Zealand, Oman and Bermuda can work together as small countries to serve an example to the bigger nations of international peace and goodwill.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Please tell us about your various associations. Like, where do you like to spend your time?
Well, I enjoy making music, and I haven't done much of that for a while, but I have written songs, so I haven't totally lost the muse altogether. Plus, I'm a lay member of a nearly 800-year-old group personally formed by St. Francis.
Wow.
The Order of Francis Secular. And that is personally overseen by the Pope rather than the bishop of any diocese. And so I enjoy attending the meetings at it's actually meets at a friary. In Palmerston North, I'd meet in like church halls. But here in Auckland, we've got the Friary of St. Francis, which is beautiful grounds and everything. So and that's not too far from where I live. So that's about apart from the obvious ones like Generation Hip Hop and so forth, that's about the only group that I'm extracurricular group or faith underpinning group that I'm part of. Yeah.
Great.
And I suppose the rest of the question is, what do I do in my spare time?
Nice. Great.
Yeah, I mean, music and reading, basically. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm curious about your love for music. I understand that you have undertaken courses in music and theater studies and have also completed a bilingual music tribute to Leonardo da Vinci. Do you still have time to pursue your passion?
Yes, well, what I'd like to do is work with you going forward on a series called Auckland Walking, where you and your readers and the rest of the world get to see and know more about Auckland as a precursor to Auckland hosting the International IDEA Awards, and that's innovation, development, empowerment and achievement. Going back to what I said about New Zealand being a hip-hop leader in that regard. So I'm actually writing some songs called, under that banner of Auckland Walking.
Wow.
Now, going to Leonardo da Vinci, I think it's all to do with being Irish, this love of music, because the Irish, ancient Ireland, saw music as part of jurisprudence. Basically, the minstrel would go around telling people songs and telling people stories through songs, give them to the magistrate who made the law.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, when you look at it, you've got your artists today like Bono, you've got people of Irish stock like John Lennon, Bob Geldof is another example. They're sort of doing this ancient Irish thing today with their music.
Yeah.
Now, coming back to your question about Leonardo da Vinci, similar thing, whole of mind thinking. 50 notebooks on subjects from hydrology to botany to geology, 3 great masterpieces, including the Last Supper, the Virgin of the Rocks, and designing all these engineering things like robots and helicopters and parachutes way before their time. But the great thing about Leonardo is he was outside of the social strata because his parents weren't married, his mother was a peasant, his father was a nobleman. So his whole interest is this business of nature and humanity. And that dovetailed in with this ancient Irish way of thinking as well, this totality, the divine, the human, the natural, all integrated and interlaced. So I was very pleased to not just think like that, but be able to get all these musicians in the city of Palmerston North, New Zealand, then a lot of ordinary people or, business owners, workers, I think some academics, to record Leonardo's quotes in Italian, then put that with our music and then send it around the world.
Great. So, what are your political affiliations? You are an avid supporter of Jacinda Ardern and her work and policies. How do you see her leading New Zealand in the coming years?
Well, one of the things I like about Jacinda Ardern is that she's very, well, she's called youth adjacent. She's one of the few leaders to had a child while, still in office and quite photogenic. And she's been faced with incredible challenges, the Christchurch massacre, the COVID-19, the eruption of White Island and so forth. But the great thing about her is that she has actually gone back and looked at her predecessors in a way that wasn't done before. She's read a book of, I think, the biography of Norman Kirk, who was one of our inspirational Labour prime ministers. Mike Moore was formerly the Director General of the World Trade Organization. So he rose to the highest international office of any New Zealander. And because of there's a lot of infighting in Labour, and she somehow managed to get all of those traditional Labour elements together and do quite well. So that's why I like her. I hope that she will be seen as somebody that has taken the hope and the promise of the Labour Party, which has traditionally been one of reform. It's traditionally been one of making positive changes, and lifts that to new heights. That's what I'm hopeful about.
Very nice. What is your role at FasterCapital New Zealand?
Thank you for asking that. The FasterCapital is a virtual incubator in Dubai that helps startups with a co-founding model. So it doesn't just give them money, it has some equity in the startup. And so very early on in the piece, I managed to set up a partnership with FasterCapital and Easy Expo. And Easy Expo is one of the world's top 10 virtual events companies.
Wow.
And they're trying to organize virtual trade fairs, virtual trade missions, from government agencies right down to small, medium-sized enterprises. So I'm very focused on, in the light of COVID, how Easy Expo can work with startups and FasterCapital. So being totally frank, the emphasis seems to have moved more Easy Expo's way than FasterCapital's, but I'm still looking at the partnership. Oh,
great. And what is your role in Netcom Pakka, Professor Liz Greenwell inspired program in Kenya? As I understand, Pakka is passing ancestral knowledge along with, it really sounds interesting.
Thank you. And when we originally signed the MOU, we basically named it after the three people who are involved, but for the purposes of getting it developed, it is just called the Watering the Fields of Humanity project, and Pakka is the African implementer of Watering the Fields of Humanity. It's Delacha Wario, the head of Pakka, approached my mother, which is quite cool. Again, just says, look, can you help us here? Because he read that my mother wanted to help areas of extreme and urgent need. Now, in that area of Kenya near the Ethiopian border, 91% of people live in poverty, according to the United Nations Development Program. So again, using that model, bring people of goodwill together, bring the technologies together, find a way of paying for it. We're applying that and looking at Kenya as a global test bed. And then we'll go out through then Africa, then the world. So not only is that implementing my mother's vision, which is very personally and generally important, it's also accelerating the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which most of the member states signed up to in 2015.
Yeah. It was really great, talking and knowing about your mother, especially today, because it's a Mother's Day today. Knowing so many good things, And it was really nice. It was really amazing talking to you. What you have been doing and nationally and internationally is really highly impressive. I'm sure the entire world needs to understand the need for watering the fields of humanity and working towards creating a network where like-minded people from any part of the world are focused on creating a better world together. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for talking to me and World Growth Forums. And take care and stay safe.
Thank you. And you too, Hasina. And for your viewers and everyone else, I look forward to working with you in the future and our affiliates and friends to realize a lot of good things in the world.
Absolutely. You are most welcome, Adam.
Okay.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Yeah. Take
Good
care.
day. Right.
Yeah.
Happy
Good
Mother's
day.
Day.
Bye. Happy Mother's Day. Bye.